Newsworks in cooperation with Oakland County. This program is simulcast on WRFP-LP 101.9 FM.
It is now 7 o'clock. I call to order this regular meeting of the Eau Claire County Board of Supervisors on this Tuesday, May the 5th. Next item order is the honoring of the flag. So supervisors, please unmute. Please unmute. And together we will recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I
pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
Invisible.
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you that we all caught up finally. Next is a moment of reflection by Supervisor Troutman.
Good evening, supervisors. I just wanted to share something I found on the internet that I thought was pretty perspective.
United States of America.
Is someone still saying the pledge?
People have to mute.
One nation, under God,
I don't know who's
indivisible, and justice for all.
Okay, I'll take two. For a small amount of perspective at this moment, imagine you were born in 1900. When you are 14, World War I starts and ends on your 18th birthday with 22 million people killed. Later in the year, a Spanish flu epidemic hits the planet and runs until you are 20. 50 million people die from it in those 2 years. Yes, 50 million. When you're 29, the Great Depression begins. Unemployment hits 25%. Global GDP drops 27%. That runs until you're 33. The country nearly collapses along with the world economy. When you turn 39, World War II starts. You aren't even over the hill yet. When you're 41, the United States is fully pulled into World War II between your 39th and 45th birthday. 75 million people perish in the war, and the Holocaust kills 11 million. 6 million of those were Jews. At 50, the Korean War starts and 5 million people perish. At 55 years, the Vietnam War begins and it doesn't end for 20 years. 4 million people die in that conflict. You're approaching your 62nd birthday. You have the Cuban Missile Crisis, a tipping point in the Cold War. Life on our planet as we know it could well have ended. Great leaders prevented that from happening. As you turn 75, the Vietnam War finally ends. Think of everyone on the planet born in 1900. How do you survive all of that? A kid in 1985 didn't think their 85-year-old grandparent understood how hard school was. Yet those grandparents and now great-grandparents survived through everything listed above. Perspective is an amazing art. Let's try and keep things in perspective. Let's be smart, help each other out, and with a little time, we'll get through all of this as well.
Thank you. Next will be the roll call. I will ask the clerk to call the roll. Supervisors, please unmute your microphone to respond.
Supervisor Gibson?
Here.
Kinney?
Present.
Knight?
Present.
Gonis?
Here.
Anton? Zook?
Present.
Wilson? Elgis?
Present.
Maury?
Here.
Coffee?
Oops, we lost Janet.
No coffee is on there. Do you still have me?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. I know Nancy's on
Oh, coffee. I'm here. I'm sorry. I
Okay.
didn't hear you.
there. Jennings,
Here.
Bates,
Here.
Hessel,
Here.
Gatlin,
Here.
Meyer,
Here.
Seaman,
Here.
Dunning,
Here.
Wilkie,
Here.
Anderson,
Present.
Beckfield,
Here.
Snyder,
Here.
Leary,
Here.
Luca,
Here.
Hanson,
Here.
Hofnagel,
Here.
Roberts,
Here.
Kronk. I saw her on there, so I know she's there. And Supervisor Christopherson.
Here.
I'm just going to repeat who I don't have in case somebody else came on late. Supervisor Anton and Supervisor Chilson. Thank you.
Here.
Was that Chilson?
Yeah, Wilson, yeah.
Okay. So I only have Mr. Anton absent and the one vacancy. So we have 28 present and one vacant. Or, excuse me, yeah, 28. We have 27 present, one absent and one vacancy.
Thank you. Before we go on to the business of the meeting, there are a couple of housekeeping things to take care of. First is a change in the agenda. We are dropping the item that has to do with the bonding, approving the bonding. And I'm going to, at this point, ask Supervisor Pagonis to explain.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our bond guys went out to, as we heard at the last meeting, they went out for bids, and they went out for bank bids. The bids came in at a higher rate than was anticipated. And so rather than go with that, we only got one bid from Capital One. Rather than go with that, we're going to reach out to the securities people, which means we will need to have our bond rating redone. So it will all be put off. We're hopeful we'll be back by the June 16th county board meeting. So it's being delayed by a month.
Thank you. The second item is our last item on the agenda tonight is appointments. And we seem to have some differences among the various versions of the agenda. There are 7 names of persons up for persons I have appointed and for whom I'm looking confirmation from the board. So just advise when we come to that, we'll read off the 7 names just to be sure that everyone knows what we're voting on. The third item is I would like to run this meeting strictly according to the protocol because I'm concerned that when we use voice motions and voice seconds and that sort of thing, and voice requests to speak, we may be missing some people. So I'm going to ask Mr. Schaaf to review the protocol tonight for making a motion, making a second, requesting to speak, and voting.
Thank you. In order to request to speak, we ask that you raise your hand. In order to do that, you will actually, on your iPad, you will see the hand. When you hit the man with the 3 lines, and you'll see in the lower right-hand corner the ability to raise your hand. When you complete speaking, please lower your hand. You hit the same icon to lower your hand. In order to make a motion, I would ask that you send it through chat with the word motion, and then I will share with Chair Smyer that you wish to make a motion.
Voting?
On voting, I will actually be sending a poll after the clerk has read the resolution and/or ordinance. And you'll be sent a poll and you will be able to answer that poll, and the results will tally on my end, and I will share that with the chair and with the county clerk.
Thank you.
Question.
Supervisor Schneider should raise your hand.
I was. You just
Oh.
couldn't see it.
Okay. Apologies. Go ahead.
So those of us on the phone, if we want to make a motion or we want to vote, how do we do that?
Thank you, Supervisor Schneider. You will actually email me the information and I will share that with the chair. If you desire to speak, you can do what you just did, which is request to speak verbally. Otherwise, your vote can be sent via email.
Is that it? Any further question? Okay. What this means tonight, we will go much more slowly than we have in the past, as we have to pause for motion, second, request to speak, and so on. So I ask for your patience. Next item on our agenda is approval of the Journal of Proceedings from April the 21st. Okay, here's our first test. Do we have a motion to approve the Journal of Proceedings?
I raised my hand and nobody called on me.
If you would like to make a motion, please, what you do, Sandra, is
Yes.
simply email in the chat function of WebEx the word motion. And so I have a motion from Donald Mowry and I have a second from Melissa Jansen.
Supervisor, please lower your hand now.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the Journal of Proceedings? Pausing for any. Okay. We have none, is that correct? Minister Schaaf, is that correct?
One moment, please. No, we have none.
Okay, we're going to proceed to a vote then. Would you please put up the vote?
One moment.
Thank you. Excuse me, Supervisor, Administrator Schaaf. I see 3 hands raised.
I don't have the hands raised. Do you see those? I do not.
I do. Okay.
So I don't have anything in the chat.
I have to tell the supervisors that when you raise your hand, I don't know who's first, second, or third. So I ask for your patience with that. I'm going to call on Supervisor Coffey first. Supervisor Coffey?
So are you, I'm sorry, I just got a phone call in the middle of all this. So tell me again, I am just approving this motion, correct?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Oh, no, you're not voting. I'm sorry. You raised your hand. I thought you had an addition or correction.
No, I'm
All
sorry.
right. Please lower your hand then. Supervisor Cronk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a comment. I just have a clarification. When I go to chat, when I hit the chat to make a motion, no matter what I hit, whether it's chat with all panelists, chat with all attendees, or chat with everyone, it says that the public chat has been disabled.
The only person that you can chat with is myself as the moderator, and so I'm the one that will see it. So you simply, when you chat, you send it to the host.
Okay.
Supervisor Cronk, okay?
Maybe. I'll figure it out. I'm working on it. Thank
Okay.
you.
And finally, Supervisor DeLuca.
Yes, I'm in the same boat that Supervisor Cronk was in. I clicked on the chat. I do not get the list with the host. I get the panelists, I get everyone, and then when I did try to type onto the screen, I got nothing. No way to type anything in.
I don't want to overspeak Supervisor DeLuca. Chairman Smyer, may I
Yes, please.
get it out? May I add to her question? May I answer her?
Yes, please.
So Supervisor DeLuca, when you go to chat, when you just pull up like the participants,
Yeah.
if you hit Catherine Schaff as the host, click on her name.
Okay.
Do you see that? If you just click on her name, you can chat with her.
Oh, wow.
What a mess this is.
What is that?
County board meeting. It's jungle. Yes. County board meeting is a fucking jungle.
Okay.
You
All right,
may want to mute your speakers when you're not
yes, please.
actually speaking.
Supervisors DeLuca and Kronk, please lower your hands. Thank you. Administrator Schaaf, please give us the vote.
Okay, one moment.
Here we go.
What? Really?
Oh, it didn't come up correctly.
Yes, it did.
It didn't. It says Journal of Proceedings, number 1, number 2, yes. A is no. I don't have an ability to check yes.
Chair,
Yes.
on this vote, would you please ask for a verbal vote and I will fix the setup of the poll questions.
Okay, supervisors, please unmute your microphones for a moment. All those in favor of approval of the Journal of Proceedings indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed by nay. Hearing none, I'm assuming that the vote is unanimous. Thank you very much. Please mute your microphones once again. Administrator Schaaf, do we have any public comment?
No, sir.
Okay, we will move on.
Aye.
Sorry. Okay, we will move on to item 7. Claims, communications, and petitions. We have in your packet a rezoning request from the owners, Ian and Rachel Matson, an applicant Real Land Survey for Pleasant Valley. This item will go on to a future meeting. We have a second rezoning request from owners Wayne and Carol Koski of the town of Otter Creek. This will also go on to the future agenda. The third rezoning request from the owners Daniel and Angela Yower, I think it is, and the applicant from the town of Washington. This will go on to the agenda of the next meeting. The final item in this section is a proclamation proclaiming July 26th as Americans with Disability Act Awareness Day in Oakland County. You do have I believe you have a copy of this proclamation. This has been before the Committee of Administration, and it's by its recommendation and under my name that the proclamation is coming forward to you for approval. The chair looks for a motion to approve the proclamation.
Schneider moves to approve with
Okay.
one typo corrected.
Well, fine, go ahead and make your correction.
Down where it says, therefore I, and it goes through blah, 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 and it still says American with Disabilities Act.
Oh, that S should have been added.
Yes.
Okay.
Chair Smyer, the S was added to the original resolution, and so the packet has been fixed.
Thank you very much. Is there a second?
It is DeLuca.
Thank you. Supervisor DeLuca seconds. Supervisor Schneider, do you wish to make any statements since you originated this proclamation?
Yeah, lived 40 years before there was a DA and now 30 years with the Americans with Disabilities Act. We've done a lot. We deserve to celebrate, and there's a lot more that we can do to level the playing field. So in addition to celebrating, we can think about what next.
Thank you.
And we got a couple months to do it.
Thank you. I do want to mention that it's thanks to Supervisor Schneider that this proclamation comes in this early. And it's fine that it's in this early. When we pass this, we will make the announcement effective for July 26th. So, supervisors, I assume you're prepared to vote. Supervisor, Administrator Stroff, would you put it up again? I'm getting the same thing again. I can't check yes. Am I the only one experiencing this?
I haven't gotten a poll at all. This is Nancy Coffey.
Yeah, my polling is
Me
still
either.
showing the proceedings.
I think you're seeing the old one, Nick.
Yes, I am.
Yep.
Do we erase that original one and put this one up? All right, thank you.
There we go.
Thank you.
There.
You have to click the answer and then submit. So you have to submit your vote.
Are you getting the emails, Catherine?
Yes, ma'am. And we have 27 in favor.
Does that mean we have 2 or 3 non-respondents?
No, we have 1 absent and 1 vacancy. That would make it 29. Unanimous.
Okay.
Thank you, Janet.
Thanks, Janet. Okay, thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is under section 10, reports of standing committees, commissions, and boards under and second reading of ordinances. The first item from the Committee on Administration is file number 15. Janet, would you read?
File 16 is requesting resolutions to be considered at the 2020 WCA Annual Business Meeting.
Chair looks for a motion.
So moved.
Supervisor Bates, use your computer, please.
Oh, oh.
I'll let it go this time.
There you go.
We're trying to stick to it. Okay, I'll take the motion from Supervisor Bates and a second from
Supervisor Welke.
Oh, you should use your computer too, Supervisor Wilkie. Okay, I'll accept those. Motion and second. Explanation. I'm going to ask Supervisor Bates to provide a little of the background information about this, since I had some inquiries about it. Supervisor Bates.
Thank you. Each year, throughout the year, we pass resolutions as a county board that either support or actually reject, or sometimes even create new resolutions to be considered at the WCA annual business meeting. That is, those particular resolutions are gathered throughout the year and have to be submitted to the WCA by June 22nd this year. The list of resolutions that you see here are ones that will be considered at the 2020 WCA annual business meeting. This is the beginning of a process that actually indicates to the WCA the degree of support for some of the things that are already on their agenda, and also introduces the idea of things that counties are against, and sometimes even brings in new resolutions coming from counties. It's really a way to establish the lobbying agenda for the organization. As the Committee on Resolutions looks at these and they come back to the body, they're passed, and then the board itself prioritizes them in order that the WCA can use their best time and efforts to really support the things that the majority of the counties are in favor of it, or reject those that counties are not in favor of. So this is the beginning of that effort to really take our lobbying effort seriously and get our issues in front of the state legislature.
Thank you. I see Supervisor DeLuca. I see your hand raised.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to ask for a change on line 46 of this resolution. I believe it's a typographical error. It says funding
instead of funding.
Yes.
Take that type as a typo. It's not necessary to take any other action. Thank you for the correction.
Thank you.
Supervisor Pagonis.
Or why you called on me?
I did.
What?
Your hand is raised.
Oh, I think my hand was raised from a long time ago when I was trying to make the motion on the ADA, and it doesn't lower.
I noticed that it's flashing. I'll keep that in mind. You'll
All
have
right.
to speak up.
Okay, I lowered it now. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. All right. Supervisor Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just wondering if the deadline is June 22nd, that still does sort of give us time if any other resolutions might rise to our attention, especially those that might be coming out of handling the challenge of COVID. It occurs to me that counties might have some more resolutions they might want to have considered in the fall. I don't have anything in particular in mind, but it seems like with this emergency, there are all sorts of issues coming up for counties.
I'm going to ask Supervisor Bates to clarify. I think that this refers to resolutions, excuse me, from the previous calendar year. Am I correct?
That's correct. Anything that would, this is simply to get as much as we can down there prior to the time of the conference. Will there be other resolutions? There are amendments that can be made at the conference. I don't believe that they can introduce new resolutions because they have to come through a process. But if you make amendments, you can make amendments all the way up to the time that these are actually passed by the body.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I see no other hands raised. Let us proceed to the vote. Administrator Schaaf, could we have the vote? Who's in front of you, supervisors, please vote. Notice it's no first and yes second. And then click submit.
Question after the fact, we don't get another crack at these?
No.
No.
And Supervisor Schneider, I don't believe I have your vote yet.
No, I didn't vote because I thought it was a 1 or I thought it was a 2 and it was a 1 or whatever.
Supervisor Schneider, do you want to tell me your vote? Because I have the rest.
Do I have to vote?
identified. Yes.
Oh, then I'll vote yes.
We have 27 yes. It is unanimous.
Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda from the joint meeting of the Committee on Administration and Committee on Human Resources is file number 27.
File number 17 is
17, excuse me.
authorizing the bridge plan related to COVID-19 pandemic and to create a task force to address issues related to the COVID-19 crisis.
Chair looks for a motion. And a second.
I have a motion from Martha Neiman and a second from Judy Gatlin.
Supervisor Neiman moves, Supervisor Gatlin seconds. Explanation. I'm going to ask Administrator Schaaf to provide the explanation.
Thank you. The two committees met jointly to discuss the effects of COVID-19 on county operations. We know already that there will be implications to our revenue stream and our operations for some time. The purpose of the bridge is to give the county time to really take a hard look at operations and to identify the pathway that they would like to take moving forward. Along with that, one of the things we know about the COVID-19 pandemic is that it will have waves. It is not a singular event that a natural disaster would be that comes and then goes. It has the possibility of multiple waves and effects that last for a longer period of time. The task force is designed to be responsive to the changing environment that we will be facing as a county government so that we can keep all of our parties and stakeholders well informed and involved in the overall process as we adjust to their changing environment.
Thank you. Are there any requests to speak? I see Supervisor Dunning. You have to unmute, Supervisor Dunning.
Yes, thank you, Chair. My question on that was on the listing of positions that are suggested that would be put on hold. My question is, are they filled positions now, or are they open positions? And the second part of that is, the annual wage was one figure, but the estimated savings was something less. If they're an empty position, wouldn't we save the whole amount?
Minister Schaaf.
Yes, and so what we had done is when we took this, the positions, even if they were empty prior to this, one of the things that we did is we asked all of our management team to identify best and worst case scenarios. And so if a position was already vacant, the department actually included the savings there in their calculation of their best case and or worst case scenarios. And so when we looked at the list that you're seeing before you, that list was actually constructed assuming that we only had a portion of the year less to recoup those savings. And that's why you see the difference. Along with that, some of the positions are vacant, not all of the positions are vacant. Some of them will be retiring. We do have some that we identified that the activities are not priority right now. And one of our key goals, if you look at the fact sheet, is to actually redeploy anyone who might be displaced because of the COVID-19 crisis.
Supervisor Dunning, please lower your hand.
Good job. Next time, good job, right?
I have a hand raised from Supervisor Wilkie.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. First of all, I want to compliment our administrator and her management team for all the hard work that they've done on this. This I see as a significant action step on the part of the administrator and the management team. Of course, there's a lot more work to be done, but I think this is a good first step. Rightfully titled a bridge. Once we cross that bridge, we'll have a lot more work down the road. But my compliments to your staff.
Thank you, Supervisor Wilkie. Please lower your hand. I see no other requests to speak. Supervisor Schneider, I won't see your hand raised. Are you okay?
I did not raise my hand. That's correct.
Thank you. I have to check.
She's a. No, it's not. It's right there.
Language.
I assume that was Supervisor Henning. Okay.
Henning. Right.
Okay. I see no other hands raised.
It was not Ray.
Oh, it wasn't. Sorry, Ray.
No way.
My apologies.
Okay.
Okay.
What did you say?
Ray said no way, or something about his hand being raised.
Supervisor Maury. You have to unmute, Supervisor Maury.
Yes, I also, I think it's commendable what the leadership has done to prepare for the fiscal challenges facing us. But I don't quite understand what the task force will be able to do. Is it charged with taking actions, or will it just be making recommendations back to the county board? Is it acting as an executive committee, or I mean, what decision-making power will it have?
Yeah. Okay. Administrator Schaaf.
Yes, sir. The question was, what will the task force do? Is that correct, Supervisor Maury?
That's correct.
Power will it have in its actual functioning to make decisions, take actions, or will it be referring some actions back to the county board?
It will be reporting to the county board on a monthly basis and referring many of the items back to the county board. It will not have unilateral authority to simply enact. The goal is to participate with our community, with our committees in a meaningful way and get input from the board members that are part of that. So we have a very holistic approach.
Supervisor Maury?
Does that answer your question?
Supervisor Maury? You there?
Yes, that answers my question. Thank you.
And thank you for lowering your hand.
You're welcome.
Supervisor Wilkie.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Supervisor Maury raises a good point, and that's the way I understood it. That at this point, it needs to be brought back to the board. But as a task force, I think there should be ongoing dialogue and consideration granting the task force more authority to make decisions. Prices, you oftentimes need prompt and more immediate response. I don't get real enthused about the thought of not having the benefit of the committee structure for vetting and the county board, but also I think the task force ought to have a discussion and weigh the loss of that versus the need to be having more immediate response. And as it is, it's really a crisis task force. But for now, my understanding is they need to bring back significant decisions to the board for full approval. But I think that should be evaluated on an ongoing basis if that's the best way to do it.
Thank you. Please, thank you. I see no other hands raised. I assume supervisors are prepared to vote on the resolution. Administrator Schaaf. You put up the vote, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. It is up now, folks. Please vote.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
I have 26 yes votes.
Okay, we will take the 26 votes as a unanimous vote. Thank you, supervisors. We will
26
now,
people were,
sorry?
Yes, that's correct.
huh?
One listed, one open. Yeah, 26.
Mhm.
I'm sorry,
I
there's
know, there's 16 still open.
are we waiting for a final?
We have, yes, we have 27 total, and they're all yes.
All right, that is unanimous. Thank you, supervisors. Now, the next item on our agenda is from the Committee on Planning and Development, File 111.
Supporting a proposed Eau Claire, Black River Falls, Tacoma Amtrak shuttle connection.
There looks for the motion.
Trying to figure out how to do that.
I have a motion from Judy Gatlin,
Motion Supervisor Gatlin, second.
Melissa Jansen.
And Melissa Jansen, thank you. Supervisor Gibson, I'm assuming that you will respond to this and probably pass it to Supervisor Dunning. Correct?
You are correct, Supervisor Smyer. He's been involved in this for about 14 years with this coalition. He's also was the one that brought it forward to planning and development, so I will hand it over to Supervisor Dunning.
Thank you, Supervisor Gibson. Supervisor Dunning.
Thank you, Supervisor Gibson. Be glad to do this. It's this is a program that, as you've been aware of in years past, we've been working on trying to get the Amtrak or get the rail to Eau Claire, and we have not quite done that yet. Although we are working on getting it from St. Paul to Eau Claire. But in the meantime, Amtrak has been looking at getting a second route from St. Paul to Chicago. And that would be a much better route because it wouldn't have all the same delays that the current Amtrak has out on between Minneapolis and Seattle. So it would improve things. But at the same time, we want to take advantage of getting our passengers from the Eau Claire area down to Tacoma, which would be a stop. And so the Wisconsin Rail Group and from the government, as well as the West Central Wisconsin Rail Coalition, have been working on looking at getting a contractor to do busing from Eau Claire to Tacoma and to meet the trains there. This has been, this is the purpose of the resolution, gives the background and then asks the state to use this as an assistance to get the second Amtrak there. So in the fact sheet that came out with it, you've got the number of people that are affected by it. We look at it, we actually have a very large contingent of people that rely on or that could rely on the rail. We've got over 5 million people, 5.7 million, that are within 30 miles of an Amtrak station in Wisconsin. So we have a big deal, and they're looking at putting buses elsewhere. So or transportation. So that is the background on this resolution. And as of late this afternoon, we got word that there is a grant coming from the federal government, from the U.S. Department of Transportation, that's giving $22 million to grants to restore passenger rail in 3 different locations, one of which is the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. We're getting $12.569 million dollars to set up to work with the Amtrak, and that will make 12 stops between Chicago and St. Paul. And we'll help with the setting up with the routes of getting the people to the Toma and elsewhere. So this has been a really big positive today. We've been working on this grant for several years, or not just us, but the state as well. And so we're looking forward to a real positive. So I really like your support on this, to support to urge the legislators to take action and to keep pushing. And we'll still work for the St. Paul to Eau Claire route. So.
Thank you. I see one request to speak, Supervisor Russell.
Question from
thank you,
Schneider
Mr. Chair.
also.
This is Connie. I just wanted to speak in support of this because I have family members who travel to Chicago regularly on Amtrak, and I think they would welcome having the shuttle service to Toma.
Thank you. Supervisor Schneider, were you trying to make a comment?
Yes, I wanted to ask a question.
Go ahead.
Am I to assume that the shuttle service would have to be wheelchair accessible?
My guess is that yes, that it would have to be. Is the current shuttle from Eau Claire to the airport handicap accessible?
It is not wheelchair accessible to my knowledge.
Okay, well, that'll be something that we can take back as this works forward. I will keep that in mind.
Thank you.
Because a lot people could, the trains are wheelchair accessible, so this would be great for wheelchair users as well.
Thank you.
I will take that back.
Thank you for your comment. I see no other hands raised. Supervisors, please vote.
We are still waiting for one additional vote.
You say who it is.
I cannot see who it
Okay.
is.
All right.
I have 26 yes at this point and one no answer.
Okay. It is 26-1. The motion passes. Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda, also from the Committee on Planning and Development, is File 114.
Amending the 1982 official zoning district boundary map for the town of Washington.
A motion? And second?
Motion by Melissa Jansen.
Motion by Jansen. We have a second?
Not yet.
Second by Bates.
Or Nancy Coffey.
Okay. Second by Nancy Coffey.
Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Gibson.
Thank you, Chairman Smeyer. Yes, this request came to Planning and Development to rezone 20 acres of land from AP agriculture to A3 agriculture for a family member to develop a residence on the 20-acre lot. This does include like Eau Claire County and the town of Washington's future land use. Planning and development staff concluded that the proposed rezoning confirms with the Eau Claire County Comprehensive Plan. They held a public meeting at the town of Washington, and the Washington Town Board recommended approval with a vote of 5-0. We held our public hearing at the Planning and Eau Claire County's Planning and Development Committee, and the committee voted 5-0 in favor to recommend.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Is there any discussion? I see no hands raised. Supervisors, please vote on file 114. Notice that no is first, yes is second.
And we have 27 yes.
27 yes, the motion passes. Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is from the Committee on Parks and Forests, file 22.
File number 12 is to amend section 16.30 to amend section 16.30.040C of the code, fees and charges, and to amend section 16.33.030A of the code, payment of rent and deposits.
Motion? And second.
Okay.
Motion by Judy Gatlin.
Motion by Supervisor Gatlin.
Second by Kimberly Cronk.
Second by Supervisor Cronk. Explanation, Supervisor Stelzis.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. As people probably know, the Parks Department rents out a number of facilities at our various parks for which we charge fees, like pavilions and so on. We also charge people for camping fees at our various county parks. And we also manage the Expo Center, where that facility can be leased out for various events. Now, we take reservations for all of those facilities throughout the year, and there exists a cancellation policy that scales based on when you would cancel your reservation, how much you would currently get back. With the advent of the COVID-19 virus, there has certainly been a wave of cancellations, and we have in fact closed the county campgrounds. At this point, the target reopening date is June 1st, but that remains to be seen. So the question comes up, should we refund people reservation deposits that they have made at these facilities? The Committee on Parks and Forests felt unanimously that we should do that because people basically have to cancel events through no fault of their own. So this change allows full refunds if there is an emergency order in place.
Thank you. I see one request to speak, Supervisor Coffey. You have to unmute.
Thank you. I have a clarification question, and Kevin, just let me know if there was a discussion about this. When the Pablo Center had the same thing happen, one of the things that they asked people if they would like to donate their reservation fee, and the other was saving that, asking them if they want to save that slot for an upcoming year. Was that discussed, or do you think that's not a possibility? Or I'm just wondering if it was discussed at all.
To my recollection, neither one of those was discussed, but if some other committee member would like to correct me, please do so.
Supervisor Coffey, please lower your hand. And Supervisor Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the questions I had, since this only refers to a state or federal emergency proclamation, could there be a circumstance where neither the state or the federal government declares an emergency, but we feel in Eau Claire County, if we have some sort of flare up or it's really dangerous and our city county health director says we shouldn't be having gatherings, would that also qualify for a refund? And when I asked Mr. Peterson about it, he said that probably they would work with the renter and see what they could work out, but it doesn't seem very clear from the language in the ordinance.
Yeah, that's a point that also I don't believe was discussed, but maybe corporate counsel who was involved in drafting this could comment.
Counsel?
I think at the time that we were drafting it, we were looking at where the declared emergencies were, federal government at that time, and that's how the language went in there. My discussions with Josh, I don't recall talking about county. I don't think that there was any intent to exclude it either. So,
thank you.
Schneider, could that be a friendly amendment to include the word county?
There's no such thing as a friendly amendment. Either make an amendment or we don't.
Could it be an amendment?
If you wish to make an amendment, you may do so.
I'd like to make an amendment to include the word county on whatever line that is appropriate.
it would be following the word federal on the line 17.
Is that the motion you wish to make, Supervisor Schneider?
And then also on
Yes,
line
sir.
31 too. Excuse me.
There are two lines? Correct.
Yes, correct.
All right. We have to vote first on the amendment. So we'll go to the vote now. Supervisors, please vote on the amendment.
Meyer, we don't have a second on that amendment.
Excuse me. Thank you for reminding me. Could we have a second on the amendment, please? Do we have a second?
Martha Neiman?
Second by Supervisor Neiman.
I'm trying, but my hand won't raise.
I'm sorry, I just saw your hand raised.
Supervisor Stelgis, when you want to make a motion, you can just type motion in the chat to
Yes,
me,
yes.
and then I will know.
Okay.
I see a hand raised by Supervisor Schaffnagel. Supervisor Schaffnagel. You have to unmute. Are you there? Schaffnagel. Supervisor, there you go.
Okay, I just was trying to do a second.
Oh, okay. Don't do it by raising your hand, though. Send a chat. We'll get this eventually, folks. Please lower your hand, Supervisor Schaffnagel. Supervisor Anderson, I see a hand raised.
Yes, I had a question, and that is, if we were to pass this amendment and the county were to declare some other type of emergency, like an environmental emergency or a financial emergency, or and just use that language, would this apply in that situation?
From council?
It just applies to a public health emergency declaration. If you read on lines 18 and also on line 32, this is specific to a public health emergency declaration, either at the state, federal, or county level as amended.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lower your hand, Supervisor Anderson, please. I see no other, oh, sorry, Supervisor DeLuca.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know, but I sent a second in via the appropriate measures, and I don't know if it's been received or not.
One moment and I will check. I typically get many at one time, so I just pull, yes, I did receive it.
I just have to pick one of them. So
I just picked the first one that shows up.
That's one of the limitations of this system. So Supervisor DeLuca, please lower your hand. I see no other request to speak. We are voting on the amendment. Just the amendment first. Put up that vote, please.
This,
Okay, that this is a vote on the amendment. So it's 012 amendment.
I don't get a yes or no.
I think she's working on it. Are you working on it, Administrator Schaaf?
Yes, sir, I am. I believe there. Could you please take a voice vote?
Okay.
The amendment.
All right. All those in favor of the amendment, please unmute, first of all. All those in favor of the amendment, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed by nay. The vote is unanimous. The amendment has passed. Now we're back to the as amended. Is there any further discussion before we take a vote? I see no hands raised. Proceed to the vote, please.
Chair Smyer, if you would do that verbally as well. I believe that in the amendment, I ruined the poll.
Thank you for your honesty.
Doing good.
Supervisor, we will do this by voice vote. All those in favor of file 12 as amended, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed by nay. I believe our vote is unanimous. Very much. We're going to come next to the appointments, but before we do this, I want to mention something that we will do before the meeting ends. Supervisor Leary, would you please mention what it is that you're requesting?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I had tried to speak earlier, but didn't figure it out. One of the former county board supervisors, Ellery Jordahl, it's been a few years since he was a member of the Eau Claire County Board, but I remember serving with him on extension, and I believe he was also involved with the Judiciary Committee and a few others. He passed away. I just thought it would be appropriate for us to have a moment of silence in his memory. Thank you.
We will do that after we do the appointments. I will call for a moment of silence and then an adjournment. So our next item is the appointments. You have in your packet the list of appointments which I have made, and I am asking for affirmation of the appointments from the board. I will ask the clerk, if you can, to read the list of the committees and the appointments.
ADRC Board, Audrey Nelson. The Airport Commission, Barry Will. Human Services Board, Kathleen Clark. Indian Head Federated Library System Board of Trustees, Josh Sterling. West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, John Frank. Groundwater Advisory Board, Dr. Iolfi and Gloria Adams.
Chair looks for a motion to affirm. We're doing this by voice.
Yes, sir.
Yes? Sure. We're doing a motion by voice.
I will move it.
Leary second.
Okay. I missed who moved that. Was that you, Supervisor Dunning?
Yes.
Motion by Supervisor Dunning, second by Supervisor Leary. Thank you. Any discussion, questions, discussion? Supervisor Wilkie, your hand is up.
All right, that was an error.
Okay, take it down. Supervisor Dunning, your hand is up. I don't know why. All right. Supervisor Schaafnagel.
I took it down.
No, it didn't come down. This is going to drive us nuts, folks. Sorry about that. Okay, just making sure I didn't miss anyone. Okay. I assume we're ready to proceed to vote then? Are we doing this by voice vote, Administrator Shaw?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all those in favor of affirming the appointments which I've made to the various boards and committees, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed by nay. Is unanimous. Thank you very much. At this point, I'm going to call for a moment of reflection in honor of former Supervisor Ellery Jordahl. Thank you very much, supervisors. We have reached the end of our agenda. This meeting is now adjourned.
This program was brought to you by a cooperation between Newsworks and Eau Claire County. Newsworks is made possible by continuing community support. If you would like to volunteer or make a donation, please contact us via phone at 715-839-5067 or online at valleymediaworks.org.